Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Talk of the Town podcast. If you have not already, make sure to hit the subscribe button, as we're now on the road to 400 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. If you love sports content, sports talk, anything from sports betting to updated rankings every week, it's all right here on the Talk of the Town podcast. So I promise you, your subscription will be well worth it and much, much appreciated. And here in today's video, we're going to be reacting to some of the best games from Week 9 yesterday. From the Seahawks and the Commanders, Chiefs, Bills, Colts, Steelers, and lots more to react to as well. So let's get right into it here today. Let's start off with the Seahawks and the Commanders, actually. I know the main storyline here today and just, this morning, this afternoon, ever since the game, really, since the injury happened, was the Jay Daniels injury. Whether he should have or shouldn't have been in the game is widely discussed. Whatever your opinion is your opinion, but I've seen all over sports media as well that, there's some guys saying that it doesn't really matter. Him being in the game, you can't really necessarily predict a freak accident. Then you have the other side saying, hey, this guy shouldn't have been in the game regardless. Those questions whether or not he was even going to play in this game and you're getting blown out, he shouldn't have been in the game. You should have just took him out. Your whole team's dropping like flies. Should have just took him out. There's both sides to the coin there. Me personally, I think they should have took him out. I'm not really on the side to where, hey, obviously you can't predict that would have happened at all, right? Nobody could have. And unfortunately, it's absolutely terrible. I don't know if you guys seen the injury, the video of it. I'm sure you've heard of it, but seeing the injury is another thing. It was pretty gruesome. It was really bad. So, I doubt Daniel suits up at all again this season. I think in a few weeks we're going to look up and the Commanders are like 4-10 or like 4-9, 3-10, 3-9. They're going to be out of the mix. You have Marshawn Lattimore, who's apparently tore his ACL. Luke McCaffrey's out for the rest of the year. Even guys like Bobby Wagner and stuff aren't necessarily playing great either. They just look really slow, and that's the thing with the Commanders. And what's weird about them is you feel like they've rebuilt, especially with the whole Jay Daniels thing. Like they went from bottom of the barrel to like the NFC Championship within a year. So you feel like, hey, this team has a really bright future. And we all felt like that. We all felt like that a month ago. But you start kind of looking around. You start looking at the pieces on this team. Bobby Wagner's old. He looks really slow. He's just, seriously, he's a liability in coverage. It's bad. You like Austin Eckler. He's out. He's been out for the year for a while now, but he was old last year when he played. But he's still, having veterans isn't a bad thing. When you look around in your main pieces, even Deebo Samuel, I'm been a little disappointed in that trade. Now he's been banged up, but that's been kind of the story with Deebo the last few years, right? He's been declining anyway. He's been getting some injuries. Well, it's the same here on the Commanders. He's kind of shown that he's really declined. He's fallen off from what he was 3-4 years ago. 3-4 years ago, he was one of the best players in the NFL, not even just the best receivers. One of the best players in the NFL. He was probably a top 10 player. He was that good, and it is considerably different from what it was a few years ago. Just between the injuries, the age, this Commanders team, I think, is in some trouble. And I'm not even just talking about for the rest of this year, because this year's done with the Commanders. They're going to have to at least start Mariota for a while here. And I've seen there's some talk where like Jay Daniels could come back, but there is no way, even if he did come back, unless this team is, what are they? They're like 3-6 now. Unless they are 10-6 and he can come back the last games somehow, he can come back the last game then and suit up, and they could potentially go maybe 11-6. And that's not going to happen. I can put everything I've ever had and owned on it that is not going to be the scenario for the Commanders. This team's going to be contending for the number 1 overall pick next year. I'd go to bet on that. I don't think they're not going to be that bad. I don't know if the Titans are going to win another game all year, and I don't know how many more the Jets are going to win. The Saints are going to win. So they're going to have probably like a top 8 pick. So they're going to have a top tier pick in this draft. And this is a very defensive heavy draft. Do they want to invest in an offensive lineman? I think they should invest in a pass rusher and a linebacker for one. I think they should really get a linebacker in the draft because they need one badly. I think they still Frankie Louvu, right? But even still, I don't know if he's played, to be honest with you. I've watched the Commanders games, but I haven't really kept up with the injury reports or anything like that. But I think the Commanders are just cooked, especially after last night. I think I said last week on my podcast, the Commanders are a weird team. I mean, they're like the oldest team in the league. If they're not the oldest, they're one of the oldest. They're up there with like Pittsburgh, but I kind of compared them to Pittsburgh a little bit. It's like they're Pittsburgh with a young quarterback and they have a lot of veterans like Pittsburgh does, but they just don't feel nearly as good. Again, they've had a lot of injuries this year. They've had a ton. That's been the difference with them. But even still, like I think the team would have flaws even if Jay Daniels was playing. Because I think even when he was playing at the start of the season, the defense didn't really look great. Like they played against Green Bay at the beginning of the year, and they just looked outmatched. So I think this team would still have issues regardless. I don't think they'd be 3-6 bad. But when you have McLaurin banged up, Daniels banged up, it's tough. I mean, those are your best players that are just going and out. So that sucks. And I said earlier before the season started as well that with their running back room, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Krosky Merritt. I think he's decent, but he's not, you don't necessarily need to have a game wrecker in the backfield, but it would be nice to have, a nice 1-2 punch back there. But Jane Daniels, it kind of feels like he has no support. And I was saying this when he had Brian Robinson, like, I think they should have went out and got another running back. Like, I think if Daniels was healthy, I think if McLaurin was healthier, that I think that they should go all in again, like Breece Hall or something. But of course, there's no point in them doing that now. If they were to do it and extend him, that'd be nice for when Daniels comes back and McLaurin's back, and healthy next year, hopefully. But I still think in the offseason they need to invest in a good running back duo at least. Because their running back room, I think that's another reason Daniels has been taking some injuries this year. That's why I said that, is because I said I think Daniels is going to get some injuries this year. I mean, he's not necessarily the biggest guy in the world. He had a very slim frame. He's kind of tall. I think, was he like 6'2" or something like that? But he's a skinny guy and he runs a lot. He's a massive dual threat quarterback, and he does take hits. That's kind of one of the worrisome things of what I think about, like when I see like Drake May run. Those guys take some hits. Jackson Dart, that's like, bro, get down. And that's not necessarily why Jane Daniels got hurt last night. I mean, he was going down anyway, and just his arm just got freaking, I don't even know. I mean, it just went all over the place. He had ligaments torn everywhere in his arm. It was all out of place there. But again, I just think with the Jane Daniels injury that while we couldn't have known that this would have happened, it could have been prevented. I mean, absolutely. I just think when you're getting your ass kicked, because this game was over by the first half, they were losing 28-0, I think at halftime, 28-7. I'm pretty sure it was 28-0 at halftime. And Darnold didn't miss a pass. He had 4 touchdowns. I'm like, this thing's over. I mean, Daniels wasn't even close to being like 70% of himself last night. He wasn't, screw 100%, being close to 100. I mean, I don't even think he was close to like 60%, maybe even 50. I mean, he just looked like a shell of himself. And that's because he's dealing with injury. He's had multiple leg injuries this year, more than just one. He had one where he missed a few weeks. He had one against Dallas where he ended up missing the game against the Chiefs. Kind of felt like he rushed back from this injury, to be honest with you. I mean, I get it. Your season's on the ropes. You're 3-5. I don't necessarily blame them for putting him in the game. But I think when you're just getting blown out, your quarterback has been dealing with injuries all year against a pretty harsh defense as it is. I mean, Seattle's defense is a top unit in this league, and I'm going to get to that here in a minute. But I just think you have to be safer than that. I mean, your quarterback is injured to all hell, and I've seen a comparison earlier this morning to where I was like, hey, these guys keep in their quarterbacks no matter what. Pat Mahomes plays in blowouts for a little bit. Allen, like these guys do keep their quarterbacks in. And I was like, I don't think that's necessarily true. While it is true, but it's not necessarily like it happens all the time now. They were saying that's just like a recent thing. Like these guys stick in their guys for the long run, no matter what, whether they're blowing them out, they'll run the ball. Like, bro, when Mahomes was going against the Raiders a couple weeks ago and they were up like 31-0, which is like what this game was at, to be honest with you. I think it was like 31-7 at some point. The game ended like 38-14. It was over. There was no chance they were going to come back in this game. Mahomes, I think, was out at the end of the third quarter. I know he didn't play like at all in the fourth. They couldn't have pulled his ass out of there fast enough. And I think the same went with Josh Allen last week against the Panthers. I mean, he was out by like the beginning of the fourth quarter. They took him out of the game. He threw like 18 passes. It was over. Like, take him out of the game. That's my opinion on it personally. I think he should have been out of the game. I get it. You can't predict these things are going to happen. Like, I mean, obviously, but it sucks. It really sucks to see. A lot of people are comparing this to an RG3 situation with the same franchise, of course. But I mean, no one obviously could have predicted this could have happened. But still, I just think you have to be better than that as a coach and just realize, okay, we've lost. My quarterback's injured to all hell. He's nowhere near healthy. He potentially couldn't have played this game. I think the only reason, I think if the Commanders were 6-2, there's no chance Jane Daniels would have played tonight or last night. None at all. So, that's my opinion on it all, to be honest with you. I just think that there has to be a little bit better of decision making when it comes to that. And I think for the rest of the league now, it's like, yeah, I think if we're up by like 28 with 10 minutes left, we're not going to run our QB on a designed run and just take them out of the game when we need to. But for the Seahawks, though, I mean, all this is kind of getting overshadowed by, I mean, the Seahawks play is getting overshadowed by this whole thing with the Commanders and Jane Daniels' injury and all, which I get it. But the way the Seahawks play, they kicked ass. And Sam Darnold is seriously, let me just say this, that I think the Vikings, even though they beat the Lions yesterday, McCarthy did look well for most of the game. He did look pretty good. I think they're still kicking themselves for not signing Sam Darnold. I mean, McCarthy played good in like the first half, and the second half was kind of like an Aaron Jones, kind of putting him on his back. Again, McCarthy's still kind of airing all over the place. His accuracy, I think, does have some issues there, but still, nonetheless, I mean, they still won the game, but they're still kicking themselves for not signing Sam Darnold. I mean, the way he's looked with Seattle, I think just them and the Patriots are only undefeated on the road. They're both 4-0 on the road. The Seahawks defense looks elite. Mike McDonald has this defense flying all over the field. The offense, JSN, he's broken out over the last couple of years, and this year now with Darnold. You know, I've always liked Geno. Like, I thought Geno has kind of grown a little bit of an overrated reputation over the last couple of years. I know he's been good. He said, you look at his numbers over the last few years with the Seahawks, you're like, damn, dude, this guy was like a top 10 QB in the league. But I did the eye test with Geno, and it's like, you watch him and you watch Darnold, like Darnold's numbers compared to Geno's probably going to be relatively similar, but you just watch them out there on the field. And I mean, I'm not saying that Geno and Darnold, by the way, this year are going to be similar at all. I just mean through like Geno's best years with the Seahawks to Darnold's, this year with the Seahawks, that they're going to be relatively similar. When you watch them out there on the field, Darnold is like 10 times better than Geno out there on the field. Like, I just felt like Geno had that bit of like a boomer bust. Like, he can make these big time throws, or he can just be a drive killer. And I think the Seahawks, they got him for like $100-something million. And you look at like Purdy and Tua, these guys are getting like over $200 million. And it's like, holy shit. Just how bad does that look right now? Purdy's just been out like the whole year with this turf toe, and Mac Jones just came in and replaced him really well. How nice. I know Shanahan in the back of his head and Lynch and all that were thinking like, hey, I really wish deep down we could have just stuck with Mac Jones for 2 years, $10 million instead of paying this guy $250 million. They'll never say it, but the way Mac Jones is playing, they look great with considering all the injuries they have. And Darnold on this really team-friendly contract now, I think the Seahawks are set up for some serious success. Just not just this season, but in the future in general. I mean, their defense, as I mentioned, they have elite guys all over the field. Their running back room, I feel like, is one of the most underrated in the NFL. It really is. I mean, Walker and Charbonnet, I mean, those guys just look fantastic out there on the football field. Torrey Horton I think that's his name, for the Seahawks. I think he's a rookie, right? I'm pretty sure he is a rookie. They just drafted him. He looks fantastic out there. Even Cooper Kupp didn't play last night, and that offense didn't miss a beat. So I think the Seahawks, the only thing I'd worry about is I think this team's like 99% going to make the playoffs, and I think they can make some serious noise. I mean, in terms of You have the Eagles, the Rams, the Bucks, the Lions. I mean, these teams are drawing some serious noise in the NFC. Like these teams feel like the bona fide, the solidified number one teams to beat in the NFC. And yet people talk about the Seahawks, but do they talk about the Seahawks to the level they talk about the Rams, the Eagles, like those teams? No, they don't. You don't think of them as being as a serious Super Bowl contender as those teams. But I genuinely think they are. I mean, I think the Seahawks team really is going to make some noise in January. Now, the only thing I'd say I'd have to worry about with them is Mike McDonald's lack of experience in the playoffs as a head coach, right? He's been a head coach 2 years. He's extremely young. We've seen Kevin O'Connell in the playoffs his first couple of years so far. I think, against the Giants a few years ago, last year against the Rams, like, they didn't look anywhere near the same team they were in the regular season, right? 2 weeks before or a week before the playoffs started, they didn't even look like the same team. So it's a different environment. You have to wonder with Mike McDonald, like, could that be the case this year if or when they get there at some point? I mean, this team's going to come down to week 18 of like who's going to win the NFC West. Them, the Rams, or even the 49ers, even with all their injuries, they're right in the mix as well. I just think Darnold, we seen him in his first playoff game last year, look really rattled. And I think the only thing with him is like Darnold, he throws a lot of like really risky footballs, and he throws them really well. He's one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL. But, you just have to worry a little bit, like when you're going against the Rams defense, when you're going against the Lions defense when they're healthy. Like, they play really good when they're healthy. Maybe even Minnesota, if they end up getting there, pulling some off. Like, the NFC has some elite defenses. The Eagles, like, are we going to be able to get those kind of explosive plays off? I don't know. It's not going to be nearly as many. Those balls can turn into turnovers, and turnovers mean everything in January. So, that's the part where I'd worry about is like the lack of experience with just their core in general, not even just Darnold and McDonald, but, that is definitely a factor when you have to play the Eagles or something, or the Rams, and you're betting against Stafford, who's been in the league forever now, who has plenty of playoff experience, Super Bowl experience at this point, McVay. How are they going to pan out against teams like that? We'll find out, but that's really the only concern I have. But for the Seahawks so far, they just looked incredible. They have. And unfortunately for them, and unfortunately for the Commanders as well, and Jane Daniels, their spotlight got taken away by the whole, like, should Jane Daniels bet in the damn game in the first place? But, I'll give the Seahawks their shine here. They definitely deserve it. Massive win there. Darnold playing like an MVP, and what a pickup there for Seattle. They look great. And for the Commanders, you just have to hope your guys get healthy. You knock it out of the park with the draft. And I think they're just looking forward to March having like a top 8 pick. Next game I want to talk about here is the Chiefs and the Bills here. The story is the regular season versus the postseason for these teams is two completely different things. The Bills own the Chiefs, or let me just say with the Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes era, the Bills own the Chiefs in the regular season. And when you flip-flop it around to the postseason, the Chiefs absolutely own the Bills in the postseason, which if I were to have either one, I think every single one of us here watching this would rather have the postseason advantage over the regular season advantage. Last year, I remember watching them as well. It seems like every year these guys have a matchup in the regular season anymore. But I just remember last year, since it's the most recent, the Bills were really coming on strong, and the Chiefs were like, I think they finished 15-2 last year. They were winning they were 11-0 in 1-score games. The Bills finally took them off their throne. I think that was actually the Chiefs' first loss of the season, if I'm not mistaken. As long as from what I remember, maybe it was their second loss. But I just remember hey, the Bills are finally this feels like their year. It was like them and the Ravens, even though the Chiefs are 15-2, people were counting about, including being in all these 1-score games and everything. People were saying this is the Bills' year to lose, and I feel like even though the Bills won this game yesterday, they do not feel satisfied anymore. Last year, they still had that satisfaction of being we're better than you guys. Now, I feel like they don't even give a shit about winning this game yesterday. I feel like that has just kind of gone away. That that lust, or that feeling of winning in the regular season has really just gone away. I mean, it feels great. You know, it was a big win for them yesterday. Took the Chiefs out of the playoff picture, which a lot of people were talking about. Like, if the season ended today, the Chiefs wouldn't be in the playoffs. Personally, I'm like, who gives a shit? It doesn't matter. There's 9 weeks left. You know, that's like saying, hey, the season ends today, or I don't even know what team I'm trying to bring up, but still, I mean, there's a lot of time left in this season, right? So I think overall, whether or not the Chiefs get the 7 seed, they get the 1 seed, the 5, the 4, you know, whatever it is, they are going to be the team to look out for in January. And the Bills know that. You know, it was a big time win for the Bills yesterday, because if they lost, that they'd be 5-3, I believe. Yeah, I think they'd be 5-3 and 2 games back from the Pats in the AFC East. But if the Chiefs won, they'd be still right in the mix for the AFC West. I think they still are, but Chargers and the Broncos won yesterday. The Broncos are still 7-2. I thought the Broncos had a really impressive win. I don't think I'm not talking about the Broncos here in this video. Sorry, Broncos fans, but I'll just bring them up momentarily. That I thought they had a really, really good win yesterday, and that keeps them right there. I mean, that would have really sucked if they ended up losing that game and the Chiefs won, and knowing that the Chiefs lost, like, hey, we could have a 2-game stretch here in this division. Now we're here with the Chargers. And you know, I mean, they did end up pulling off the win and everything, which was good for them against Davis Mills and that Texans defense, which is just tearing teams apart. But, you know, I think the Chiefs are still in the mix. And I know, as I mentioned previously, that people are talking about them and being out of the playoff picture. I'm like, what does it matter with 9 weeks left? Seriously, do you really think the Chiefs are not going to be, and they're like the 8th seed? I think, you know, you have teams that are going to start falling from grace. I think the Colts could start kind of falling off a little bit. I forget who's necessarily at the bottom of the picture, but it's going to be tough. You have the Ravens on the come up. I just thought it was a big time win for the Bills yesterday as well. I just think necessarily that feeling of like, hey, winning this regular season game against the Chiefs, like, you know, we feel like we're the top dogs in the AFC now, is just like kind of gone. To be honest with you, it's like, hey, we still own you in the postseason, right? So I think I'm predicting now we're going to see another Chiefs and Bills playoff game at some point. I'm going to start calling that the Beefs. I don't know. That's interesting. I don't know why that came out of my mouth like that, but as far as I've never heard anyone say that before. Chiefs and Bills, I think we're going to see another postseason matchup between these teams. I thought it was a good game yesterday. I mean, I thought the Bills overall just had the upper hand the whole game in Highmark Stadium for one of their last times against the Chiefs, probably. Maybe the last time against the Chiefs. So I just thought the Bills had the upper hand in this game, and they played their hearts out yesterday. I mean, they seriously are. No matter how bad we think the Bills are dropping off, the Chiefs are dropping off, these are the 2 teams to beat in the AFC still, and they're still neck and neck. And I think this game just proved yesterday, like, no matter how far the Chiefs are off, you know, they're still the team, one of the teams to beat in the AFC, even if they're not in a playoff picture right now. Next game I want to talk about here, the Colts versus the Steelers. I'm going to say this about the Colts as well. I think the Colts, this was their toughest matchup all year, to be honest with you. I really do. I think no matter whether or not the Rams, you know, they played the Rams, weird kind of funky game, was a 1-score game. Even though the score got close with this game towards the end, it was never close. Like Pittsburgh, even when the Colts were driving down the field, Pittsburgh, TJ Watt, like these guys would make vintage Mike Tomlin Steelers defense kind of plays. They just would. And TJ Watt really had a coming out party yesterday. I've been kind of slamming TJ Watt for the last couple of weeks, to be honest with you. I really have. I'm like, dude, this guy, they paid a boatload of money for this guy, to this guy. And he's just 30s. He's just not playing anywhere near what he used to be. And yesterday, TJ Watt just completely blew all that out of the water. Now, whether or not he can keep this kind of play up on a consistent basis like he used to, you know, we'll have to see. But the Steelers need TJ Watt. Like, they just do. And I was saying that at the beginning of the season, is like, they have to re-sign this guy. Even though, like, I've been kind of slamming him the last few weeks with he hasn't been playing well. They've dropped a couple of games. They have a tough stretch coming up here against, you know, what I thought they were going to lose to the Colts yesterday, and they ended up winning pretty handily there. Like, this team does need TJ Watt. They just do. They need those big strip sacks, which changes the momentum. This is the thing with the Steelers defense all year is like, it has looked really bad against bad teams, but against some of the better teams, it's actually looked pretty good. And if this defense can kind of go back into its older form like it looked yesterday, the Steelers are going to be a tough assignment, especially because I think Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback they've had since Big Ben. I think he eclipses Russell Wilson. I mean, I don't care how good they were with Russell Wilson or Justin Fields last year. Like, Aaron Rodgers feels considerably better than those guys. I mean, even though Rodgers isn't, he's not in his prime anymore, but you look at him statistically, he's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. You just watch him out there, does what it takes to move the ball down the field. I still think the Steelers should make some sort of trade, whether or not it's today. Well, they're going to make some trade while I'm recording this year. But, I still think they should make a move for some sort of receiver, another running back, Breece Hall. I think they should make a Breece Hall move. I think they need another running back. Yesterday, they averaged like 2 yards per carry against the Colts. Jaylen Warren feels like kind of like Tony Pollard a little bit. Like, do you remember when Ezekiel Elliott left the Cowboys and it was like, dude, Tony Pollard, like, we've been waiting for you, because the year before Zeke left, they were still splitting a lot of carries between Pollard and Zeke, and Pollard felt a lot better than Zeke. Well, that's kind of what it was last year. It was like they had Najee, they had Jaylen Warren, and it's like when Jaylen Warren would come in, he felt like 10 times better than Najee Harris in there. But they kept feeding Harris, they kept feeding Najee every time, and it was like, can we give Jaylen Warren the ball more, please? And Jaylen Warren finally has his chance now as a featured back, and it's just like, this guy's just really not that good. He has his moments, but overall, he's just like, our running back core is not as good as we thought it'd be. And Jaylen Warren is just not as good as we thought. And it just has that Tony Pollard kind of feel to it a little bit. But I think the Steelers, again, TJ Watt, he's the reason they win a lot of these big games. These strip sacks, these just big-time momentum-swinging plays on defense is what he brings. I mean, he has been a key part to the Steelers' success for years now. Even some of the last years of Big Ben, like, you look at their teams and on paper, they just do not look like they're that good. I mean, their defense, you look at the names they have, it's like, this defense looks really good. And they have like the highest paid defense in the league. And over the last couple of weeks, I mean, really a majority of the season, like, their defense has just not been great. And, against the Patriots, who are 7-2, they had like 5 takeaways in that game. I think they had 6 takeaways yesterday. And, against the Colts, one of the better teams in the league. So against some of the best teams in the league, this defense, some of the best teams in the league, this defense shows up to play. But I feel like they have to be better against some of the worst teams in the league. So I feel like this defense plays down to some of their like shittier opponents, right? So again, and I feel like this was a big spot for the Steelers, because I think if the Steelers lost this game, I felt like Tomlin's job could have been on the line, maybe. A lot of talk around with Tomlin, like, hey, is this guy is he going to stay next season? Like, are we going to be able to go 9-8? We might miss the playoffs if we go 9-8. You have the Ravens trending upwards, the Bengals, even though they just had another heartbreaking loss to the Bears after a previous week to the Jets, another heartbreaking loss. Like, this team's still here. They're still a game behind us. The Ravens trending upward are a game and a half behind us. If they lost, that, like, they'd be in a bad spot. Like, this was a must-win game for Pittsburgh yesterday, and they ended up pulling it off. I mean, I have to give them credit. The defense played really well. Rodgers and that offense were moving down the field. And, talking about the Colts, like, they had one of the best offenses, like, historically so far throughout, like, the first, like, 9 weeks. They've been, like, one of the best offenses in NFL history. They had them rattled. And, moving into the Colts here, the Colts, if you get them out of their comfort zone, which they played in all year against bad opponents, the Colts they look rough. They do. And they had Daniel Jones really rattled. He had multiple. I think he had like 3 interceptions yesterday, a couple of fumbles. Like, he looked bad. He looked really bad yesterday. Like, kind of the Daniel Jones we know in the last, 7 years of his career, something like that. A long time. And they had him rattled. They took Jonathan Taylor out of the game. Like, the Colts feel like they can win one way. And that is like, hey, you played at our pace. Jonathan Taylor's just beating the shit out of you in the offensive line, bullying. We're creating big plays with Jonathan Taylor. We ask very little of Daniel Jones. just go out there, convert on like a 2nd and 4, a 3rd and 3, 3rd and short situations. And that's how we dominate, is by dominating time of possession. And that's not what they did yesterday. They were thrown off of their formula, which to me is not good. Because, I mean, again, you throw any team out of their comfort zone, to me, that's the true test of a good team. Like, when you have the Bills out of their comfort zone, like, it feels like Josh Allen can come back on you no matter what. Like, even if, again, I don't like the Bills when Josh Allen has to play Superman. They're not running James Cook. Like, that's to me when I feel like the Bills, but to me, that's just on their play calling. Like, I don't necessarily think that's teams that have him out of their comfort zone. I just think Joe Brady is trying to get too flashy looking for a head coaching job. That's what I think that is. But I like other teams, like when you get the Chiefs off rhythm, no matter what, like Mahomes can come back on you in a second. Same thing with Allen. That's one of the things I've been skeptical on with the Baltimore Ravens the last couple of years. Like this whole time they've had Lamar, like the Ravens have one way of beating you. And again, that is just beating the crap out of you. Like just one punch KO, like you're just done. You look up at the scoreboard, you're down 28-3 in the 3rd quarter. Like, but if the Ravens have to beat you in a track meet, they panic. That's what I thought the Colts did yesterday, is the Colts panicked. They weren't running Jonathan Taylor, and when they were running him, they were getting like a yard or 2 per carry. Then they were forcing the ball down the field with Daniel Jones. That's what I feel like teams like kind of like the Ravens have been doing the last couple of years. You look up, they're only down like 14-7, and Derrick Henry's just not touching the ball. They're passing on every play, trying to move the ball 40 yards down the field at a time. It's like, guys, like you're down 7 points. That's what I thought the Colts did yesterday, is like they went right into panic mode, like right away. And it's like, you're down like 14-7 here. I mean, like, come on. They're not running the ball with Jonathan Taylor. They're trying to force the ball down with Alec Pierce, like what felt like 20 yards down the field every possession, and was just killing their drives. And I just thought they had the panic button too early. I thought Jonathan Taylor was just completely taken out of the game plan. And that's what I thought. I thought the Colts, while the Steelers created a lot of turnovers, I felt like the Colts also beat themselves yesterday. Again, with the errant throws by Daniel Jones, a lot of 3 interceptions, couple of fumbles. And where does that come from? That comes from panicking and throwing the ball a shit ton when you're down by a score or 2. I mean, so that's kind of my thoughts for the Colts going forward, is like, if you get this team off script, are they going to completely crumble and fall apart? I don't know. So I guess we'll just have to see. But, maybe it was just kind of a one-off thing. The Colts haven't really been in this position all year. As I mentioned, they've just been beating the shit out of teams all year. Now they get in a position where it's like, hey, we have to play in a close game. We have to play good situational football. Are we going to be good at that? And they weren't at all yesterday. So little worried about the Colts in that situation, to be honest with you. But I guess we'll just have to see going forward. Next game I want to talk about here is the Panthers and the Packers yesterday. I just want to talk about this game briefly. Lots of concerns about Green Bay, which I've had over the last few weeks, where like this team was so good the first couple of weeks of the season. And then I feel like the Micah Parsons hype kind of died down, not with his play, but that trade was really fresh going into the season. Like it happened like a week and a half before the season started or something like that. And then it was like, okay, now we're playing down to opponents. I don't know what to think of Green Bay. I mean, they're only 5-2-1. There's a lot of worry with Matt LaFleur, with the fans and everything. I'm like, you guys still are only 5-2-1. Like, do you feel like you should be better? Yes. But, I feel like we may be panicking a little too early, but I do feel like there is some reason for concern. I don't feel like we should panic and be like, hey, the Packers are done. Like, they're only 5-2. I mean, 5-2-1, including the tie. But, like, even though as bad as this team kind of looks right now, like, they just do not look great. They just, talking about the Steelers and the way they looked against one of the best teams in the league, the Colts, the Packers just demolished them 2 weeks ago. I mean, literally just killed them out there on the field. So we know the Packers can play. They're just not consistent at all. Like, you look up the Packers play a couple of really good, just ass-kicking games, and then it's like, we just lost to the Panthers. Like, what was the score of that game yesterday? I think it was like 13-6. Let me see real quick. No, 16-13. That's what it was. I forgot the game-winning field goal. And the Packers did go down and score. But, I mean, just 13 points. And the Panthers defense, I will give them credit, looks really good. Like, I was all in on the Panthers kind of coming into this year. Like, a lot of people were like, Matt, why are you taking the Panthers serious? You're talking about Bryce Young and an MVP kind of candidate conversation. Like, what the hell are you thinking, dude? And Bryce Young didn't have the greatest game yesterday. And that's kind of the thing with the Packers is like, Bryce Young didn't even play well yesterday. He had a pick. He didn't throw for any touchdowns really, but, they still ended up winning the game. And Jordan Love, I don't know if you guys seen that throw. There was like a fourth down. He threw one of the worst passes I've seen this year, maybe the worst pass I've seen this year, across his body into the end zone. And I think it was Jackson, dropped the interception. And that's what they say about cornerbacks is like cornerbacks are receivers that just can't catch. And that's proved the point yesterday of like, that maybe could have been housed for a pick six, or at least they could have gotten some serious yardage on it. He had green grass in front of him. Those were the freest interception in NFL defensive back. And hell, you could put me out there. I probably would have made that interception, to be honest with you. Anyone, that was the freest ever. There wasn't anyone within 10 yards of him. And it was just a looping pass onto the side of the end zone, and he just dropped it. One of the worst passes I've seen in a long time, especially that may have been Jordan Love's worst throw of his career. To be honest with you, that was a horrible throw. And the Packers, I think, have a little bit of an identity crisis, to be honest with you. I really do. Their offense, they're not running the ball well with Josh Jacobs. It kind of feels like, hey, Jordan Love, take this and do whatever you will. Like, receivers, go out there, make a play. Jordan Love, make a play. It just doesn't feel like there's any structure to that offense. It doesn't feel like, hey, we're run heavy. We want to punch us in with Josh Jacobs. We want to ask less of Jordan Love. Like, it feels like, well, they run the ball a lot of times, and then with Jordan Love, it feels like it's kind of a free-for-all between him and the receivers out there. It's like, get it to whoever you please. We'll just run him out there. You run around, you scramble, you do your thing, and that's that. That's what it kind of feels like, and that's really weird with an offensive coach. That's why I say with Matt LaFleur is like, that's kind of weird for an offensive coach to have zero offensive identity through 9 weeks of the season so far. And that's why I do agree with Packers fans. It's like, there is some reason for concern right there. I do believe so. But I say concern. There's no need to panic, but hopefully he can get it back in line here throughout the next couple of weeks. And I thought the Panthers, defensively, they played one of the best games they played in a long time defensively. They played a great game. This had a trap game feeling for the Packers, but Bryce Young didn't play all that well. Played well enough for them to get the win. Not really any bad turnovers. He had the one in the end zone that was a pretty bad interception, but nonetheless, drove them to get in field goal range. He did miss a couple of open receivers, but it was a really windy day. That's why I thought Fitzgerald's kick to win the game was like, hey, that was a hell of a kick to win the game right there. They had a missed extra point that got pushed back 50 yards because I think it was Rico Gallo had a really just stupid penalty. Could have ended up costing them the game. They was very lucky it didn't. Even though as good as he's been playing, he got let off the hook there. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, man, I thought the Packers, little reason for concern there. I do believe that there is reason for concern with Matt LaFleur. Tucker Kraft tearing his ACL is brutal. That is a brutal loss right there. One of the best tight ends in the league so far this year, and he was really good last year. He's been good for the Packers. He's one of Jordan Love's main guys, and that's a blow right there. That is, but here's the thing. Matthew Golden is going to have to step up. Dobbs, Christian Watson, these guys are going to have to step up. There's going to have to be some sort of structure within this Packers offense. I didn't think the defense played bad yesterday. I thought the defense has been playing pretty well for most of the year. I still think maybe they should try to acquire a cornerback at the trade deadline personally. But I still think the Packers, you look all around at the roster, there's no shortage of talent. They just need some sort of structure, which comes from the head coach, Matt LaFleur. He needs to get this team with some sort of identity because they're looking like the Eagles at the beginning of the year. Their offense, they have all this talent, but what the hell are they doing out there? You just look like it's this just feels like a free-for-all between Jordan Love and the receivers. Well, who's going to go get it? Everyone just go run for their life out there. I'll manage to get somebody. And it just looks it's just strange. It's a strange operation. And just talk quickly about the Panthers. It's I loved the Panthers coming into this season. Now, they're only 5-4. They'll probably manage to only pull out 8 or 9 wins. But for the Carolina Panthers, from what they've been the last couple of years, that is a massive step in the right direction. I mean, even more than massive. Like, for them to go to like moving off of Bryce Young a year ago to like, hey, we might have to look at extending this guy. They are trending in the right direction for the first time in years, years. So that is definitely a really good win for the Panthers. They can play with anybody, and I've been on the Panthers side all off season. I'm like, yeah, I think people like Ted McMillan was a really good draft pick. And this is coming from me, who I think receiver is the most overrated position in the NFL. I do. Now, it's important. I'm not saying it's not an important position, but you look at teams like Buffalo and the Chiefs, like even the Ravens to an extent, even though they have Zay Flowers, but these teams never have any like premier receivers. I mean, the Chiefs had Tyreek Hill for years, but and the Bills did have Stephon Diggs, but them having Stephon Diggs never ended up winning them squat. The same goes with the Ravens. Like, the Ravens do win a ton of games, but they don't really have any premier receivers. The Chiefs win all these games with Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice is a true one, but at the same time, it's like, I do think receiver is like people act like you have to have Justin Jefferson to win any games in this league, and I don't think that's necessarily true. I think you do need good receivers, but you don't need an all-time talented receiver to win any sort of games. But and I thought Ted McMillan was a really good draft pick, and he's been great so far this season. I think pretty underrated in the receiver aspect. I think he's been one of the better receivers in the NFL. Not even just like one of the best rookies so far throughout this class, but he's been one of the better receivers in the NFL, and it's given Bryce Young a lot of confidence. I think it's given the Panthers a lot of confidence within their offensive game plan. Rico Dowdle, for one, who has been a beast. No one could have predicted this. I mean, he is one of the best players in the NFL, period. Not even just one of the best running backs. He's changed the Panthers around, and I think the Panthers are an upset trap game kind of team that this defense is humming. They're fast. They're young. J.C. Horn is like, I think he got drafted over Pat Surtain. From what I remember, I'm pretty sure that he did get drafted over Pat Surtain. And he got a lot of money in the offseason, but, he's never necessarily been looked at as like, hell, this guy is a top-notch corner. He's finally starting to get that recognition, and he's playing up to it. So good for him. Good for him. And I loved that game yesterday. It was a really good game, and I thought the Panthers were the massive upset. I think the Packers will be fine. I just think they have to get an identity. Luckily, they have an offensive coach for that, and hopefully they'll start pulling it together at some point soon. Next game I want to talk about here is the Bears and the Bengals. One of the craziest two. I could just make a whole 30-minute segment on the last 2 minutes of the game yesterday. Seriously, I could. I'm not going to. I'm going to talk about this game briefly because really, I mean, the only thing to talk about is like how shitty are these teams' defense. I mean, my God, the Bengals year in, year out, you have Jamar Chase, Chase Brown. The offensive players are getting pissed off because you look at the Bengals offensively, they have like a generational offense. I mean, they are incredible. But you look at their defense, and their defense is generationally awful. I mean, just atrocious. And they're just costing them games. The Bengals can average 40 points a game and lose just almost every game they play. That is how bad it is. And that's on the ownership. That's on the GM. When you, like Shamar Stewart, they had the whole situation in the offseason, which I mentioned, like, even if they signed this guy, which they ended up finally doing so, which would feel like forever, he's not guaranteed to be this great pass rusher for him. Now, he is a project player, but he had like a sack and a half in his college career or something. Like, you're taking a big swing on this guy. And do I trust the Bengals defensive personnel to develop a project player into being an elite pass rusher? Hell no. Absolutely not. And that's why, like, I don't know what the Bengals do from here. I mean, I do know, but are they going to do it? And let's go get some defensive players. Like, you have to overpay for a good corner. Like, if this team in the first round, which they're going to pick, I mean, I don't think they're going to be bad enough to pick maybe top 10, but I think they'll have a top 15, 16 pick. So there'll be an elite corner there. They have no choice but to draft a cornerback. Like, unless the only other position I can say is like, hey, if there's a really good left tackle prospect, which most likely there won't be, the Titans are going to be drafting a top pick. They're going to have to draft a tackle. Like, tackles like elite tackles do not leave the top 10. They just do not. So unless they trade up or something, and if there's magically one there, then I wouldn't complain. But they have to draft something in the secondary. And if they draft another pass rusher, I wouldn't complain. But they have to fix the secondary in Cincinnati, or else you're going to have Jamar Chase. I think literally he could put up like 5 touchdowns a game and they'd still lose. That is just how bad it is. I mean, that defense can't wrap. They can't tackle. Again, I think it just goes beyond the players. I mean, I think their defensive personnel just has to be ass as well. They can't wrap up and tackle. Now, that comes down to the players, but it's like, what are these guys coaching out there on defense? It's just brutal. And even the Bears defense is terrible, too. I mean, they looked bad yesterday. If they lost that game, which the Bears are so lucky they didn't, that would have been one of the worst collapses I've ever seen in a football game. Horrible. From having a pick six to potentially just shutting out the game to all of a sudden you look up and the Bengals are winning and with like 17 seconds left and Colston Loveland drives for like some 50-yard touchdown and bangs off like 4 defenders. It was just a monstrosity. Again, there's not too much to talk about with these teams as offenses because they look fantastic. And we know these teams as offenses have been great. Like the Bears offense, honestly, hasn't been that great. They looked fantastic yesterday. Caleb Williams, he had a great game yesterday. I don't even know how to pronounce that running back's name that the Bears have. I do know how to pronounce it. I just don't have it up here. I forget how to say it, but if you know, he's been fantastic. The Bengals defense and the Bears defense yesterday just looked awful. And I think the Bears do have good defensive personnel. Now, they do have injuries, but the Bengals defense doesn't matter with Hendrickson out or anything. Hendrickson could play. It doesn't matter. The secondary is awful for Cincy. Like, the defense just can't seem to do anything right. And it's costing them games. Like, Flacco almost had 500 yards passing yesterday, and they still ended up losing that game. 40-some years old, putting up 500 yards passing, and they lose the game. Like, that is... And like the Jets game the week before that, they were up like 14 with like 6 minutes left and lost. I just, to the winless Jets, that is just fireable right there. Look, Zach Taylor could take a lot of blame, but he's an offensive coach, and the way the offense is playing is nowhere near the issue. Like, I'm actually sticking up for Zach Taylor here. Like, I'd be pissed. And I know he has somewhat to do with the roster building, but the Bengals are known for being cheap. Joe Burrow, when he had that leg injury a few months ago, they didn't have a cart for him on the field. They ended up having to carry him off because they don't have a cart on the field in Cincinnati. They are historically cheap as hell. And it just, the defense is just proven so. Every year, they can put up 50 points a game. The Bengals are going to manage to lose. So that's just the main story for me, man. They've got to get some sort of defense, or else they're going to waste Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Joe Burrow. They're even wasting Joe Flacco's years right now, like whatever years he has left. But the juice he's bringing, they're wasting it. This is wasting away right now for Cincy. And Chicago, again, Caleb Williams had a great game. I thought they played a really good game. The defense just collapsed within the last couple of minutes of the game. They weren't great all game, but they are dealing with some injuries and just, it's a big time win for the Bears. What are they, 5-3 now, I believe? Yeah, 5-3. So they're right there in the mix, man. The NFC North is seriously, seriously fun to watch and keep an eye on it, because is there potential, especially with the Vikings winning, that like all 4 of those teams can make the playoffs, especially with Dallas probably not going to make the playoffs. The Giants aren't. The Washington definitely isn't at this point. The Falcons probably aren't. Carolina's kind of in the mix. As I mentioned, I like them, but do you really feel like they could be a playoff team? Like, could all 4 teams maybe make the playoffs in the NFC North? I don't know. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. And next, or the last game I want to talk about here, just briefly here, not too much. It was kind of a blowout game. 49ers and Giants, because I just wanted to talk about some of the players. And Kyle Shanahan, who I believe should be like right in the running for Coach of the Year. With all the injuries they have and how competitive they are, is just really incredible. I mean, it is. You look at teams like I mentioned, Green Bay is, even though they lost Tucker Kraft yesterday, I mean, the receivers are healthy. They got Watson back, Jacobs, Love. Like, Their tackles are healthy. Like you could look around and teams would just pray to be as healthy as like Green Bay was right now. And especially the 49ers would. And they have a better record. They look better than Green Bay right now. They're so well coached, and it just shows. Shows when they're playing. Mac Jones looks like a completely different player. It looks like he did his rookie year with New England. I mean, just looks fantastic. He's out there picking teams apart. He went a long time without an incompletion. They just looked dominant in this game. They just did. And CMC, one of the better games of the season, maybe the best game of the season for Christian McCaffrey. So that's definitely some for the 49ers to be ecstatic about. Christian McCaffrey looks like he's going to come on again, which is fantastic. I mentioned Kyle Shanahan and the coach of the year. Jackson Dart, I just want to say this for Jackson Dart, is like he does look really good. I've been skeptical of Jackson Dart. So far, like in the draft, I was like, I just don't think that's a good draft pick. Now, he's played a few games. They're doing it without Neighbors, without Scadaboo now. A lot of their offensive personnel is injured. Even some of their defensive personnel is pretty beat up. So, and I think him showing any sort of flashes and them losing is all Giants fans could ask for. They're going to get a top pick, which I think is really good for this team, depending on what they spend it on, of course. I think they should invest it in that secondary, but they have a great pass rush. I think they could use an elite corner. They have really good receivers. If they wanted to use it on an offensive lineman, but I think they should use it on their secondary, to be honest with you. I think they could use another piece in that secondary, especially with them like trading McKinney away a few years ago and all. But I just wanted to ask your guys' opinion on this, because this is the main reason I kind of wanted to talk about this game. Didn't want to touch up on it a little bit, but there's not too much to talk about, right? It was a blowout for the most part. I just want to ask, especially any Giants fans watching this, like, what do you think about keeping Brian Daboll? I just want to know, like, I'm 50-50. Look, I've seen some conversation about, like, hey, what are you going to do? Like, these second-year guys, like Jackson Dart, are you going to completely ruin his career by putting in another head coach? But I don't necessarily think that's 100% true. Look at Caleb Williams and Drake May right now. They have new head coaches in their second year. Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. Now, those are elite hirings. Now, I don't know if there's going to be anyone in this coaching cycle that you could really feel comfortable replacing Brian Daboll and be like, is this the guy we want to really bring up these young players? Dart, Scadaboo, Malik Neighbors, like Abdul Carter. Like, is this the guy we want handling these guys? Because I'm telling you, Lane Kiffin is an eye to watch out for, is a guy to watch out for as well. If there's some college coaches that decide they want to come up, doesn't happen often, but could be the case here. There's been some talks there. You throw a lot of money at these guys, I think they'd end up leaving, to be honest with you. There's some hot candidates in college right now. I don't know. Mike McCarthy could potentially be an option, but like, do you really want Mike McCarthy right now? He's a great head coach. He is. I do like Mike McCarthy a lot, but do you feel more comfortable with like Daboll, McCarthy? Like, again, to me, it feels like if you could replace him with an elite level guy, like, I don't know if there's necessarily going to be kind of like a Vrabel or a Ben Johnson in this cycle, but if you could find some guy who you would feel comfortable with handing your future, like handing the key to these guys, because you can get an elite head coach. Like, well, you hand names like Dart, Scadaboo, Carter, Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Malik Neighbors. Like, there's some pretty high-end names in that organization right now. Like, coaches would be all over that. Like, are they going to take the Giants or are they going to take the Titans job? It ain't even close who they're going to take. So there's definitely, the Giants could get a real head coach. Like, they could. Like, whether or not you think Daboll is or not, is up to you. But I just want to hear your guys' opinion on that. Like, I'm kind of all over the place. I'm 50-50. I just think it depends on the coaching cycle. So that's all I got for that. And that's all I got for this video as well. I hope you guys enjoyed it. My reactions to week 9. We got Cowboys Cardinals tonight. Should be a pretty interesting game. I know Kyler Murray, I don't think he's playing tonight, so keep an eye on that. But that'll be a big game for the Cowboys, especially with Washington trending downwards. The Eagles are trending up right now with a couple of trades this afternoon with Jalen Phillips and all. It seems like the Eagles get anyone, right? But yeah, man. Good episode today. If you're new here, again, appreciate you guys for coming and supporting, watching the video. And yeah, man, see you guys tomorrow. Everyone take it easy.